Two ancient ruins stand miles apart, yet they are perfect mirrors of one another. This is the profound mystery of twin structure ruins, a phenomenon that upends everything we thought we knew about early human societies. By the end of this journey, you will see the ancient world not as a collection of isolated cultures, but as a network of interconnected minds. How did builders separated by vast distances achieve such perfect symmetry? And what urgent message were they trying to set in stone for the ages? What does our own attraction to perfect symmetry tell you about humanity's deepest desires? One structure rises from a steamy jungle canopy, while its twin stands silent under a relentless desert sun. They are separated by hundreds of miles of impassable terrain, yet they are perfect mirror images of one another. This is the first and most profound layer of our mystery, the phenomenon of identical distant structures. Archaeologist Dr. Elena Vance states that this is not mere coincidence. It is a deliberate act of replication that suggests a shared blueprint or a common cultural imperative. But what does identical architectural geometry truly mean in this context? It is far more than two buildings looking somewhat similar. It means the angles of every corridor are a perfect match. The proportions of every room, from length to width to height, are scaled exactly the same. Even specific astronomical alignments, where a doorway frames the sunrise on a particular day, are replicated with stunning precision. This level of detail implies a shared, incredibly advanced knowledge system. Now consider the staggering logistics. How do you transmit such a complex blueprint without a written language that we have yet to discover? How do you guide a separate team of builders working with different local materials to achieve this perfection across such a vast and unforgiving landscape? This single phenomenon shatters the old image of isolated, primitive cultures. It forces us to see them as technologically and socially sophisticated, capable of a coordinated effort that we are only just beginning to comprehend. The very stones tell a story of connection that we have forgotten. How do you deliver a perfect blueprint across hundreds of miles of wilderness without a single written word? This is the second great enigma, the puzzle of shared knowledge and its flawless transmission. An ancient architect might have carefully incised a design onto a clay tablet or a piece of wood, creating a master plan. But that physical object then had to survive a perilous journey through dense jungles and over towering mountain passes to reach the second site. The slightest error in translation, a misremembered angle, or a misinterpreted proportion would have resulted in a structure that was merely similar, not a perfect twin. The fact that we see identical geometry means the transmission was perfect. So how was it done? One compelling theory points to the master builders themselves. These were not simple laborers but highly trained individuals, perhaps part of a specialized guild or a revered class of artisans. They may have undertaken great ritual journeys, carrying the sacred geometry of the design not on a perishable tablet, but entirely within their own mind. They would have memorized every corridor width, every ceiling height, and every astronomical alignment through years of rigorous training and oral tradition. This knowledge was too precious to be entrusted to anything but human memory. Another possibility is that this architectural exchange was woven into the fabric of long-distance trade. Established routes used for moving precious stones, shells, and other goods could also have been highways for ideas. A merchant caravan might have been accompanied by a lone architect, sharing knowledge at different settlements along the way. Or perhaps the designs were passed along during great seasonal gatherings or religious pilgrimages, where people from distant communities met and exchanged not only goods but the very blueprints for their world. The most tantalizing clue lies in the possibility of a universal measurement system. Researchers have noted that certain proportional measurements appear again and again in these twin sites, a kind of ancient metric system based on the human body, like the length of a forearm or the width of a hand. If both building teams were using the same standardized unit of measure, achieving identical proportions becomes a much simpler task. This points to a shared cultural and technological framework, a common language of construction that bound these distant peoples together. The driving force behind this immense effort remains the deepest part of the mystery. Why go to such extraordinary lengths to create a duplicate? Was it a declaration of power, a way for a ruling class to project its influence across a vast territory? Or was it something deeper, a spiritual imperative rooted in the belief that certain forms held cosmic power, and that replicating that form in a new location was necessary to maintain harmony with the universe? The stones themselves are silent on this matter, leaving us to wonder about the profound beliefs that compelled such perfect, mirrored creation. The blueprint was not just for the stones, but for the sky itself. At the exact moment of the solstice, the sun would rise and slide perfectly between two specific pillars, casting a blade of light down a long, dark corridor to illuminate a single carved stone at the far end. This breathtaking event did not happen at just one location. It was replicated with perfect fidelity at its twin, hundreds of miles away. This shared celestial choreography is our third great mystery, the role of astronomical alignments. It suggests the builders were not merely constructing shelters, they were building complex calendars in stone, designed to interact directly with the cosmos. Why would a culture invest such immense effort to mirror celestial events in multiple, distant places? Astronomer Dr. Liam Chen suggests these alignments served as powerful ritual markers. Imagine two distant communities separated by treacherous terrain, both witnessing the same profound solar event at the very same moment, guided by identical architecture. This created a shared experience, a synchronized heartbeat across a vast territory. It was a way to assert a cosmic order, to tell every person within that culture that they were part of a single, unified system that was in harmony with the universe itself. The precision required for this is staggering. It means the builders possessed not only advanced observational skills, tracking the sun's slow migration year after year, but also the mathematical understanding to translate those celestial patterns into immutable stone. A slight miscalculation in the angle of a doorway by even a single degree would mean the solstice sun would miss its mark entirely, decade after decade. The fact that both structures achieve this perfect alignment points to a deeply refined and shared scientific tradition. This leads us to the profound spiritual motivations behind such endeavors. For these ancient peoples, the cycles of the sun, moon, and stars were not abstract concepts. They were the visible breath of the gods, the direct manifestation of cosmic power and order. By building structures that captured these cycles, they were perhaps attempting to tap into that power, to guarantee the return of the sun after the long winter, or to ensure the rains would come for their crops. The twin structures, then, were more than just buildings. They were anchors tying their world to the heavens, and in doing so, tying their distant communities to each other through a shared, sacred geometry. This network of timekeeping sites unified them under a common cosmological framework, reinforcing a social cohesion that was literally written in the stars. This shared experience under the heavens points toward a deeper human need for connection. Stepping into one of these identical temples, an ancient traveler would have felt an immediate sense of the familiar. The same cool stone underfoot, the same echo in the long hall, the same shaft of light falling in a predictable pattern on the solstice. this replication was not an accident of engineering. It was a deliberate act of spiritual reassurance, a way to make the distant feel like home and the sacred feel ever present. The very stones were whispering a message of unity, telling every visitor that their identity and their beliefs were part of a larger, stable whole. Anthropologists suggest that this mirroring often represents a fundamental duality in a culture's worldview. The pairing of the structures could have physically manifested the balance between earth and sky, life and the afterlife, or the human and the divine. By creating two perfect halves, the builders were perhaps completing a cosmic circuit, bringing equilibrium to their world. This idea of balance was not just philosophical. It was a practical, lived reality. These twin sites may have functioned as essential pilgrimage destinations. A person might journey to the temple in the lush, life-giving jungle for a rite of birth or planting, then later travel to its desert twin for a ceremony honoring ancestors or the passing of the seasons. Performing the same rituals in identical settings, separated by vast distances, was a way to maintain harmony across the entire territory. It was a form of spiritual upkeep for the universe itself. Beyond cosmic balance, this duplication served as a powerful engine of cultural memory. In a world without widespread literacy, architecture itself became the most durable record. By building the same sacred geometry again and again, a society could ensure that its most important knowledge, its founding myths, and its technical skills would not be lost. The act of construction was a form of storytelling, and the twin structures were two copies of the same vital book, ensuring the story survived even if one was lost to time or hardship. This created a tangible network, not just of faith, but of shared power and identity. A ruler who could commission such mirrored monuments was demonstrating influence that stretched to the horizon, uniting diverse landscapes under a single, unmistakable symbolic language. But how do we move from these compelling theories to solid evidence? What traces did these ancient builders leave behind that allow us to confidently reconstruct their spiritual world? The clues are subtle, etched into the very fabric of the sites and the artifacts found within. Beneath the grand theories of spiritual unity lies a more tangible mystery, one buried in the dirt and stone of the ruins themselves. The archaeological evidence presents a complex puzzle, where scientific dating methods sometimes yield conflicting timelines that challenge our understanding. How do we determine if these mirror structures were built at the same moment in history, or if one is a centuries-old echo of the other? The primary tools are carbon dating, which analyzes organic materials like charcoal or bone found in the construction layers, and stratigraphy, the careful study of how soil and debris accumulated over time. When a hearth is discovered in a foundational layer of one temple, its charcoal can be dated to give a reliable age for when that site was first occupied. Yet the data often tells a convoluted story. A compelling case comes from Mesoamerica, where twin pyramid complexes separated by significant distance show nearly identical architectural geometry. Excavations, however, revealed that one site had evidence of continuous habitation for centuries before its iconic temple was ever built, while its twin seemed to appear almost fully formed on the landscape. This creates a fascinating conundrum. Did the older community inspire the newer one, sending its master builders to replicate its sacred site afar? Or did both communities draw from a much older, common source, a lost cultural wellspring that provided the original blueprint? Stylistic similarities can be deeply misleading without precise chronologies. In Southeast Asia, for instance, two nearly identical temple complexes were initially assumed to be sister sites from the same era. Further material analysis of the stone carvings and mortar compositions, however, suggested they might have been built hundreds of years apart. This raises the possibility of a long-lasting architectural tradition, where a specific sacred form was preserved and replicated over generations, a testament to its enduring power rather than a single, coordinated building project. Piecing together a coherent history from these fragments forces archaeologists to weigh two major possibilities. The first is cultural diffusion, the slow spread of ideas through trade, migration, or conquest, where a powerful concept travels along established routes and is adopted by a distant culture. The second is the more radical idea of independent innovation, where two separate cultures facing similar environmental or spiritual challenges arrived at the exact same complex architectural solution entirely on their own. The weight of the evidence, particularly the uncanny precision of the astronomical alignments, often leans toward a shared knowledge system. Yet the dating conundrums remind us that the transmission of ideas across time and space is rarely a simple, linear process. This intricate dance between soil layers and radiocarbon dates is what ultimately allows us to move from speculation toward understanding the true relationship between these communities. And this evidence inevitably draws our focus to the most universal language of all, the precise mathematical code that made such perfect mirroring possible in the first place. The stones themselves hold a silent numerical code. Within the mirrored walls of these distant ruins, archaeologists have uncovered a hidden layer of mastery, a sophisticated command of geometry and mathematics that seems to defy their time. We are not looking at roughly similar shapes, but at the exact repetition of perfect circles, specific triangular ratios, and layouts governed by a principle known as the golden ratio, a proportion celebrated for its inherent aesthetic balance. This is the sixth mystery, the puzzle of mathematical precision. How did builders without lasers or computer models achieve such flawless accuracy across hundreds of miles? And why was this numerical perfection so vitally important? The answer begins with a simple, universal tool, the human body. Researchers propose that ancient cultures often relied on standardized units derived from physical measurements. A cubit might be the length from a man's elbow to the tip of his middle finger. A fathom could be the span of his outstretched arms. If master builders from both sites were using the same fundamental unit of measurement, then duplicating a complex blueprint becomes a matter of counting, not guessing. A corridor is not just long, it is precisely 30 cubits long. A doorway is not just high, it is exactly 8 cubits high. This shared metric system acted as a common language, allowing for the perfect translation of an idea from one landscape to another. Yet the geometry found in these sites often goes far beyond the needs of simple construction. The persistent appearance of the golden ratio, for instance, or the careful alignment of a structure to specific celestial angles, points toward a deeper purpose. This is where practical mathematics bleeds into the realm of sacred geometry. For these ancient architects, certain shapes and proportions were not merely aesthetically pleasing. They were believed to hold power. A perfect circle might represent the eternal cycle of the sun and seasons. A specific angle might be thought to channel spiritual energy or to reflect the fundamental harmony of the cosmos itself. Building with these sacred ratios was a way of weaving the laws of the universe directly into their temples, ensuring the community remained in balance with the natural and spiritual worlds. To decode this ancient numeracy, mathematicians now work hand in hand with archaeologists. They analyze the angles of walls and the proportions of chambers, often discovering that the architecture encodes sophisticated astronomical data or complex philosophical concepts. The very layout of a city might mirror a constellation, or the dimensions of a central plaza might solve a mathematical equation. This was a universal language of design, one that transcended local dialects and customs. It prompts a staggering comparison to other ancient marvels. from the astronomical alignments of stone hinged to the precise cardinal orientation of the Great Pyramid. Though separated by continents and oceans, these diverse cultures seem to have been speaking the same silent tongue of sacred mathematics. This shared vocabulary of form and number suggests a profound and perhaps interconnected understanding of the world, one that challenges our modern perception of ancient isolation and invites us to listen to the whispers of geometry etched in stone for millennia. This phenomenon of mirrored ruins is not an isolated mystery. Across the globe, from the sun-baked plains of Giza to the lush heart of Guatemala, we find a startling pattern of architectural convergence. Civilizations that history tells us never met, never traded, and never communicated nonetheless erected structures of profound similarity. The most famous example is the pyramid. The stepped pyramids of Mesoamerica, built to honor deities and facilitate ceremonies, share an unmistakable visual kinship with the great tombs of ancient Egypt. Both are monumental, both are precisely oriented to cardinal directions, and both represent a colossal investment of communal effort. So how do our twin structure ruins fit into this broader, global puzzle? The key distinction lies in the difference between similar forms and identical geometry. While the pyramids of Egypt and the Americas share a general shape and purpose, they are not perfect mirror images. Their internal layouts, construction techniques, and specific proportional ratios differ significantly. Our twin ruins, however, present a case of exact replication. It is the difference between two cultures independently inventing the wheel and two cultures independently inventing the exact same model of bicycle, down to the millimeter. This precise mirroring over a specific distance suggests a different kind of connection, one more direct than the slow, vague drift of an idea across continents. Experts are deeply divided on how to interpret these global anomalies. One school of thought champions the concept of independent innovation. This theory posits that the human mind, when faced with universal challenges like reaching for the heavens, tracking the seasons, or creating a stable, imposing structure, naturally arrives at similar solutions. A pyramid is, in essence, a very stable way to build high, and a society's most important building would logically be aligned with the fundamental order of the cosmos, which everyone under the same sun can observe. The other major theory is cultural diffusion, the idea that these concepts were carried, however slowly, along ancient trade routes or through long-forgotten migrations. Proponents of this view point to the tantalizing, though often debated, evidence of transoceanic contact long before the accepted dates in our history books. By placing our twin ruins within this worldwide context, their uniqueness comes into sharper focus. They may represent a middle ground, a case where independent innovation was not enough. The sheer precision of their mirrored design points toward a shared, and perhaps more recent, technological or spiritual source. This comparative analysis forces us to ask whether these structures were part of a larger, prehistoric network of knowledge exchange, a web of connection that has since faded from memory. To understand how such a network could have functioned, we must finally turn our attention to the practical tools and forgotten technologies that made these marvels possible. The silent geometry of these ruins speaks of an incredible feat of engineering. To transform a sacred blueprint into a physical reality, these builders faced a monumental challenge. Imagine the task of quarrying a multi-ton block of stone, shaping it with perfect angles, and then moving it hundreds of miles to a building site, all without the wheel or metal tools. The replication of this process at a second, distant location implies a shared, standardized toolkit and a universally understood set of techniques. On the surfaces of the cut stones, archaeologists find the faint, telling marks of their tools. Grooves left by stone hammers and abrasions from sand mixed with water reveal a patient grinding process. The sharper edges suggest the use of copper chisels, a relatively soft metal that requires constant resharpening but is capable of fine work when wielded with skill. The true genius, however, lies not in the tools themselves but in their application through simple physics. How do you lift a stone block heavier than an elephant? The answer may have been a complex system of levers, ramps, and ropes. A team of workers could slowly inch a massive slab up an earthen ramp using wooden rollers, a technique that leaves little trace but is demonstrated through experimental archaeology to be remarkably effective. Ensuring geometric consistency over such distances required its own form of brilliance. How did they guarantee that the foundation was perfectly level across a sprawling site? They likely used water levels, a simple trench filled with water that provides an unerring horizontal reference no matter the terrain. Measuring chords knotted at standardized intervals would have allowed them to transfer exact dimensions from the master plan to the rocky ground. The precision of their celestial alignments suggests they also used basic sighting instruments, perhaps 2 posts aligned to mark the rising point of a star. The sheer scale of this labor points to a highly organized society. This was not a haphazard community effort. It required a structured labor force with specialized roles for quarrymen, stone carvers, engineers, and coordinators. Feeding, housing, and managing hundreds or even thousands of workers represented a colossal investment of a community's resources. This level of organization forces us to ask, what was the powerful driving force that justified such an immense and duplicated expenditure of human energy? The answer may lie not in the stones they raised, but in the profound ideas they were trying to immortalize. The true power of these structures was not in their silent stones, but in the vibrant, purposeful life they once contained. Were they bustling administrative hubs, serene temples of worship, or perhaps both at once? The discovery of identical functional spaces at both sites provides our most direct clues. In one complex, archaeologists uncovered a large central plaza perfect for public gatherings, flanked by rows of identical small rooms that could have served as offices for scribes or storage for grain tributes. At its twin, the exact same layout was found, suggesting a standardized model for regional governance. This points toward a decentralized empire where 2 mirrored capitals managed 2 halves of a kingdom, enforcing the same laws and collecting the same taxes under the same architectural symbol of unity. The finds within these rooms tell a deeper story. Alongside practical items like grain grinders and clay seals for official documents, excavators have uncovered meticulously crafted altars and caches of ceremonial objects. This blend of the administrative and the spiritual implies that power and faith were deeply intertwined. A ruler's authority may have been legitimized not just by military might, but by their role in presiding over sacred rituals performed in these identical, cosmically aligned spaces. This leads to one of the most debated questions: why build 2? One compelling theory suggests they were a form of strategic redundancy. If a natural disaster, an outbreak of illness, or a conflict befell one center, its twin could continue the essential functions of government and religion, ensuring the civilization's knowledge and social order would survive. It was a brilliant backup plan written in stone. Another possibility is that they were tools of integration, deliberately placed in culturally distinct or newly conquered territories. By imposing a familiar, awe-inspiring architectural form, a central authority could seamlessly bind distant peoples into a common identity. A traveler arriving from a remote village would immediately recognize the layout and know how to interact with the power structure it represented, from where to pay a tax to where to offer a prayer. This functional mirroring created a predictable and stable framework for society, reinforcing both social order and economic stability. Trade would flourish under a unified system of weights and measures, and religious festivals could be synchronized across the realm, creating a powerful, shared cultural rhythm. By understanding the intended purposes of these twins, we unlock the political and economic strategies of a forgotten age, strategies that were fundamentally shaped by the very land upon which they were built. The very ground beneath these structures was chosen with profound intention. Why place a monumental complex on a windswept plateau or deep within a remote river valley when more hospitable land was readily available? The 10th mystery pulls our gaze from the architecture itself to the land it occupies, revealing that the site selection was as deliberate as the blueprints. Geography was not a backdrop, it was an active participant in the design. A location on a high ridge, for instance, offered an unobstructed view of the horizon, turning the entire temple into a giant astronomical observatory for tracking the sun and stars. This was not just about a good view, it was about perfect alignment with the cosmos, a necessity for the sacred rituals performed within. Simultaneously, these elevated positions provided a formidable defensive advantage, allowing the inhabitants to see potential challenges from miles away. The strategic placement often reveals a keen understanding of territory and resources. Many twin sites are found along ancient trade routes, not as lonely outposts but as integrated way stations. This positioning created a continuous line of communication and control, allowing goods, people, and crucially, information to flow reliably between the mirror centers. The flow of messengers and merchants along these paths would have kept the twin communities in sync, reinforcing their shared identity with every journey. Environmental analysis deepens this understanding. By studying soil samples and ancient climate data, researchers can reconstruct the landscape as it was millennia ago. A site that now seems arid might have been nestled near a now vanished spring. The specific type of stone chosen for construction might have been quarried from a nearby outcrop, chosen for its durability or even its symbolic color. This deliberate interaction with the environment speaks to a sophisticated knowledge of local resources. Building in two different, yet similarly challenging, landscapes, one in the highlands and one in the coastal plains, could have been a powerful symbolic act. It represented the civilization's dominion over the entire spectrum of their world, from the mountain peaks to the sea. They were not just building structures, they were weaving their architectural language into the very fabric of the continent, declaring that their culture could thrive anywhere. This deep connection between place and purpose shows us that the architects saw the land itself as a sacred text, and their structures were the annotations written upon it. This leads us to wonder what other messages were encoded not just in the stones, but in the very placement of each doorway and the alignment of every wall, waiting for us to decipher their silent, symbolic language. The stones speak a silent language, one carved not in words but in symbols. Across both ruins, the same intricate patterns repeat with an uncanny consistency, a shared visual vocabulary etched into pillars, lintels, and altars. We are now confronted with the 11th mystery, the hidden linguistic and symbolic codes embedded within the architecture itself. These are not mere decorations. They are a sophisticated system of communication, a way to broadcast religious beliefs, political authority, and historical narratives to a largely non-literate population. A visitor from the northern desert complex would immediately recognize the same coiled serpent motif adorning the southern jungle temple, understanding its shared meaning instantly. This symbolic mirroring acted as a powerful binding agent, reinforcing a unified identity across the vast territory. Epigraphers, the scholars who decipher ancient inscriptions, carefully catalog these recurring elements. They might find an identical glyph representing a storm god, a symbol so standardized it functions like a universal logo for divine power. Or they might uncover a repeated narrative scene, perhaps depicting a foundational myth of emergence from a sacred cave, telling the same origin story at both locations. This created a visual language that transcended local spoken dialects. Whether a person spoke the language of the highlands or the coast, they could read the same sacred story from the temple walls. This consistency provided a profound sense of belonging. Imagine a pilgrim traveling for weeks to visit the sister site. Upon arrival, they would not feel like a foreigner. They would be surrounded by familiar symbols, a spiritual home away from home that reaffirmed their place in a larger, ordered universe. The very act of recognizing these symbols strengthened their connection to the central culture and to each other. By patiently decoding this stone-born lexicon, we begin to glimpse the builder's worldview. We see which animals they revered as messengers to the spirit world, which celestial bodies they worshipped as gods, and which historical events they deemed important enough to immortalize in rock. This exploration of silent symbols inevitably draws our attention to the spoken word, to the vibrant oral traditions that would have given full voice to these carved stories, preserving them for generations long after the last stone was laid. These ancient stories, whispered across generations, speak of twin heroes born from a single star. In the living oral traditions of descendant communities, we find a powerful narrative layer to our mystery, a mythology built around the concept of the double. These are not simple tales. They often describe divine twins who brought sacred knowledge to the people, or mirrored worlds where every action in one realm ripples into the other. The structures themselves are sometimes explained as footprints left by these celestial beings, or as waypoints on a great ancestral migration. The alignment between these myths and the physical ruins is often profound. A story about twin brothers who parted ways to found two great cities can directly mirror the geographical separation of the archaeological sites. A legend describing how one hero held back the sun while the other measured its shadow could be a metaphorical memory of the precise astronomical alignments encoded in the temples. Ethnographers work carefully with indigenous knowledge keepers to record these narratives, treating them not as fanciful folklore but as a valid and enduring form of historical record. These oral histories preserve details that stone alone cannot, such as the specific rituals performed at the solstice or the emotional significance of a particular carved symbol. They answer the why behind the what, revealing that the duplication was far more than an architectural feat. It was the physical manifestation of a core cultural belief in balance, partnership, and the fundamental duality of existence. The community that built these twins likely saw their entire world through this lens of twinning, where life required its counterpart in the afterlife, and the human realm needed its reflection in the divine. This rich interplay between spoken story and silent stone deepens our appreciation, transforming cold ruins back into the vibrant, sacred centers they once were. It also raises a compelling, practical question. If stories and blueprints could travel so faithfully between these sites, what tangible routes did people use to move between them? This line of inquiry naturally shifts our focus from the realm of myth to the physical evidence of exchange, prompting an investigation into the ancient trade networks that stitched this mirrored world together. This vast network of exchange required more than just footpaths. It demanded a sophisticated system of roads, rivers, and sea lanes. The evidence for these ancient communication highways is etched into the landscape itself, from the remnants of a paved processional way cutting through a mountain pass to the discovery of deep water ports along a now silted coastline. These were the arteries through which the lifeblood of the civilization flowed, connecting the twin structures and enabling their perfect symmetry. The movement of people and goods along these routes was constant. A merchant caravan laden with obsidian from a highland quarry would travel for weeks to reach the coastal twin, its journey made possible by way stations and fortified outposts that offered shelter and security. Along the way, these traders did more than just barter for jade or exotic feathers. They carried news, they shared technological innovations, and they transported the most precious cargo of all, knowledge. The master architect responsible for the temple's design might have been a passenger on just such a journey, guiding the local workforce with a shared understanding of measurements and celestial alignments. The archaeological proof for this connectivity is overwhelming. At both ruins, excavators have uncovered pottery fragments whose distinctive chemical signature matches clay sources hundreds of miles away. Shells from a distant sea are found in ritual caches at the inland site, while precious stones unique to a single mountain range appear in the jewelry of elites at both locations. This distribution of artifacts paints a clear picture of an integrated economic zone, where raw materials and finished goods moved freely along established corridors. This was not a haphazard trickle of trade, but a well-organized system that supported the colossal undertaking of construction. Timber for roof beams, stone for statues, and lime for plaster mortar all had to be sourced, transported, and delivered according to a master plan. The very existence of these identical structures implies a level of logistical coordination that would have been impossible without reliable, high-volume trade routes. This intricate web of exchange inevitably raises a deeper question about the society that built it. Who possessed the authority to command such resources and orchestrate such a vast, synchronized effort across such challenging terrain? Thousands of hands moved in a coordinated rhythm, a human symphony of labor that transformed quarried stone into sacred geometry. The sheer scale of this effort forces us to ask a fundamental question. Who were these builders, and what kind of society could command such a colossal, duplicated project? The evidence points not to a simple community, but to a highly complex civilization with a sophisticated understanding of organization and logistics. At the base of a remote construction site, archaeologists often uncover the remains of temporary worker settlements. These are not prison camps, but organized communities with their own hearths, storage pits for food, and areas for tool maintenance. The analysis of food remains is particularly revealing. Finding evidence of a diverse diet, including meat and fish, suggests that workers were well provisioned, perhaps as a form of payment or communal support. This contrasts with the grim evidence found at other ancient sites, where a much poorer diet points to a life of hardship. The way tools were distributed also tells a story. At some twin sites, caches of identical stone hammers and copper chisels have been found, suggesting a central authority was issuing standardized equipment to the workforce. This level of coordination implies a system of overseers, engineers, and specialized artisans, all working in concert. So, was this immense labor driven by the absolute power of a ruler, or by the collective will of a believing populace? The answer likely lies somewhere in between. A powerful centralized authority was almost certainly necessary to coordinate the procurement of materials, manage food supplies for thousands, and enforce the precise standards required for the mirroring effect. Yet, the absence of evidence for widespread coercion, combined with the cultural importance of the structures, suggests that shared spiritual belief was a powerful motivator. For many, contributing to the construction of a cosmic anchor point, a place that ensured harmony with the gods, would have been a sacred duty and a profound honor. This was not just about moving stone. It was about participating in the spiritual upkeep of the world. The ability to replicate this entire social and technical system at a second location is perhaps the most stunning evidence of their organizational genius. It meant they had a portable model of society itself, with trained engineers who could teach local populations the required skills, and administrators who could replicate the supply chains and work schedules. This points to standardized roles and even what we might call ancient training programs, where knowledge of measurement, astronomy, and stoneworking was passed down through structured apprenticeships. The social complexity required for this endeavor underscores how vital the twin structures were to the civilization's very identity and stability. They were not vanity projects. They were the foundational pillars of a unified world, and the immense investment in their creation reveals a society that was willing to pour its collective heart and soul into a vision of cosmic order. This intricate organization inevitably draws our focus to the very substance of the structures, the raw materials that were sourced, shaped, and assembled with such breathtaking precision. The silent geometry of these temples begins not with the builders, but with the stone itself. Each block carries a hidden history, a geological fingerprint that can trace its journey from a specific quarry across impossible distances. Geochemical analysis reveals a startling truth that materials used in these twin structures were often not local. The same distinct granite, traceable to a single mountain source, appears in the walls of both the jungle and the desert complex. This was not a matter of convenience, it was a deliberate, monumental choice. It meant that a multi-ton block of stone was quarried, shaped, and then transported hundreds of miles through dense forests or over arid plains to its final destination, not once but twice. Why go to such extraordinary lengths? The answer lies in a profound need for absolute uniformity, a belief that the spiritual power of the structure depended on the very substance from which it was made. The logistical challenge of this undertaking is almost beyond comprehension. Without the wheel or modern machinery, moving these colossal weights required brilliant ingenuity. Workers likely used a combination of wooden sledges, lubricated with water or animal fat, and heavy log rollers. They would have constructed massive earthen ramps, inching each stone upward through sheer human effort, a symphony of coordinated labor. For riverine routes, they may have built sturdy barges, using the current to help carry their precious cargo part of the way. This was not a haphazard process, it was a highly organized, repeatable system. The consistency in material sourcing points to a centralized authority with the power to command resources from a vast territory. It suggests that established, protected trade routes were not just for luxury goods, but for the fundamental components of sacred architecture. The immense cost and effort invested in this material consistency reveals how vital visual and tactile uniformity was to the builders. A pilgrim touching the cool, familiar granite at either site would feel the same connection, the same assurance of being in a place of authentic power. This material sameness was a physical guarantee of spiritual authenticity. This incredible investment in sourcing and moving stone invites a deeper question. What profound rituals were these identical, imported materials meant to host? The same sacred rhythm pulsed through both complexes on the appointed day. At the precise moment the solstice sun touched the horizon, priests at the jungle temple and the desert temple would have raised identical ceremonial bowls, their voices chanting the same hymns to the same gods. This ceremonial mirroring, the 16th mystery, turns these silent ruins back into living, breathing centers of faith. The archaeological evidence for these shared rituals is both subtle and profound. Central to both sites are nearly identical altar stones, positioned to catch the first or last light of the sun on specific dates. These are not simple blocks, they are carefully worked platforms with shallow channels carved into their surfaces. Residue analysis has detected traces of organic substances like tree resins and animal fats in these grooves, substances known from ethnographic studies to be used in offerings. This suggests a shared liturgy, a prescribed way of presenting gifts to the divine that was faithfully replicated across the distance. Beyond the altars, caches of ceremonial artifacts tell a similar story. In a sealed chamber at one site, archaeologists uncovered a collection of jade beads, obsidian mirrors, and incense burners carved in the shape of a local bird of prey. At its twin, a nearly identical collection was found, with the same types of objects arranged in the same ceremonial pattern. This was not a coincidence. It was a standardized ritual toolkit, implying that the priests at both locations were following the same detailed ceremonial script. Why was this symmetry so crucial? Anthropologists studying similar traditions note that performing the same ritual in two powerful, geographically separate locations was believed to create a circuit of spiritual energy. It balanced cosmic forces, ensuring that the sun would return, the rains would come, and the world would remain in harmony. For the people, it created an unshakable sense of unity. A farmer in the arid north and a fisherman in the humid south knew that at the same moment their communities were united in the same act of devotion. This created a spiritual network that was far stronger than any political boundary. The repetition of these rites was also a form of social memory. Each performance reinforced the community's shared history, values, and identity. It taught every generation the same stories and the same ways of interacting with the divine. This ceremonial consistency was a powerful tool for cultural continuity, ensuring that the core beliefs of the civilization remained unchanged for centuries. Yet, such profound unity and concentrated spiritual power would have required protection, leading us to consider the formidable practical measures taken to safeguard these sacred centers. The geometry of these sacred sites was a matter of both spiritual and physical survival. Those thick, identical walls and narrow, defensible entrances were not merely architectural choices, they were a calculated response to very real threats. A single, isolated temple was vulnerable, but a pair of coordinated strongholds could monitor a vast territory, creating a web of control and communication. From an elevated position at one complex, a sentinel could see for miles, and a signal fire lit on its platform would be visible from its twin, passing a warning across the landscape in a matter of minutes. This duplication created a strategic redundancy that was brilliant in its simplicity. If one center fell to conflict or faced a natural challenge, its mirror could continue to function as a command hub, ensuring the civilization's leadership and its most vital knowledge would endure. Historians pore over ancient territorial maps, tracing the lines between these sites. They often find the twins placed like bookends, controlling the entrance to a fertile valley or guarding the confluence of two major rivers. This was not a random act of construction, it was a deliberate act of territorial management. The very sameness of the structures sent a powerful, unmistakable message to any potential challenger. It proclaimed that the authority which built here was so organized, so powerful, and so technologically advanced that it could replicate its presence perfectly across the land. This uniformity itself was a deterrent. An invading force encountering a second, identical fortress after conquering the first would face not a new and unfamiliar challenge, but the same formidable geometry, suggesting an endless supply of such strongholds. The features we admire for their beauty served a starkly practical purpose. A single, narrow entranceway that channeled the solstice sun also created a perfect choke point for defenders. A high, thick wall that aligned with a star also made scaling it nearly impossible. The same sacred proportions that harmonized with the cosmos also created defensible spaces that were incredibly difficult to assault. This fusion of the spiritual and the martial reveals a society that saw no separation between the protection of its people and the protection of its cosmic order. They were one and the same. This strategic dimension adds a crucial layer of practicality to our mystery. The twins were not solely places of worship, they were instruments of governance and pillars of security. They centralized authority, controlled the movement of people and goods, and projected power across a sprawling domain. Their very existence suggests a period of expansion, consolidation, or perhaps rising external pressures that demanded such a sophisticated and duplicated defensive network. Understanding this practical necessity inevitably leads us to ponder what powerful forces, whether from within or beyond their borders, could have ultimately challenged this brilliant system, leading to its eventual silence. Even the most brilliant systems are not immune to the slow turning of the world. The silence that eventually fell upon these twin complexes was not a sudden event, but a gradual fading, a story told in layers of dust and repurposed stone. What forces could have compelled a society to walk away from such profound monuments to their own power and belief? The archaeological record offers several haunting possibilities, each a piece of the puzzle. In one complex, a thick, blackened layer of ash and collapsed roofing timbers points to a catastrophic fire, perhaps the result of an attack that the formidable defenses could not withstand. Yet at its twin, there is no such evidence of violence. Instead, we see a slow, quiet decline. The grand plazas, once swept clean for ceremonies, show layers of wind-blown sediment, with no new construction to interrupt the accumulation. This suggests that the central authority that maintained the sites, the very engine of their duplication, may have faltered. An extended period of drought, recorded in ancient climate data from lakebed cores, could have shattered the agricultural base that fed the thousands of workers and priests. As resources dwindled, the immense cost of maintaining two identical centers may have become unsustainable. The social contract, once sealed by shared ritual, may have frayed, leading people to gradually return to their local villages, leaving the grand cosmic anchors to the elements. But abandonment is rarely a full erasure. In some cases, we find evidence that later cultures moved into the shells of these ruins, repurposing their sacred spaces for their own needs. A ceremonial altar might be found covered in simpler domestic hearths, or a grand hallway subdivided into small living quarters. This is not destruction, but transformation, a testament to the enduring utility of the structures long after their original meaning was lost. The legacy of the twins, however, did not simply vanish. The very geometry of their design seems to have echoed through the centuries. Later temples built by successor cultures often display a familiar proportion in their doorways or a recurring alignment in their layout, a faint but recognizable architectural memory of the old dual centers. Local folklore from the region sometimes preserves the memory of these places as the homes of twin gods, or as cities built by a single people who were later divided, a narrative that keeps the mystery alive in the collective imagination. The ruins themselves became places of pilgrimage for new generations, their original purpose forgotten but their inherent power and grandeur still felt. This enduring presence forces a profound reflection on our own relationship with the past. These sites are not just relics of a fallen civilization, they are a stark reminder of the fragility of even the most seemingly permanent human creations. They challenge us to consider what we are building today and what messages, encoded in our own steel and glass, might one day lie silent for future generations to decipher. A new kind of excavation is underway, one that requires no shovels and disturbs no sacred ground. Modern technology is now peeling back the layers of time, revealing the twin ruins in a light their builders could never have conceived. Sophisticated tools like LiDAR, which uses laser pulses from aircraft to map the ground beneath dense forest canopies, have uncovered entire hidden cityscapes surrounding the structures. What appeared as isolated temples are now understood as the hearts of vast, complex urban centers, connected by a web of causeways and plazas that mirror each other with stunning precision. This non-invasive eye in the sky confirms the incredible scale of planning, showing that the architectural mirroring was part of a much grander, duplicated urban design. Meanwhile, ground-penetrating radar sends pulses into the earth, revealing the ghosts of foundations and the outlines of rooms long since filled with soil. These scans have detected previously unknown chambers buried deep beneath the central plazas of both sites. The presence of these identical hidden spaces, directly below the main altars, has sent theorists reeling. Were they sealed tombs for revered leaders, secure storage for sacred texts, or perhaps resonant chambers designed to amplify ritual chants? The fact that they are a matched set at both locations suggests their function was absolutely central to the shared purpose of the twins. Digital reconstruction takes this data and breathes dynamic life into it. Archaeologists can now create precise three-dimensional models of the sites as they originally stood. Using advanced software, they can simulate the path of the sun, moon, and stars across the ancient sky, watching as digital light recreates the solstice alignment with exacting detail. This has confirmed that the celestial geometry was even more sophisticated than previously thought, often marking not just the sun, but also key lunar standstills and the rising of specific planets. The virtual stones themselves tell the story of their creation. These models can also show stress points and structural load, revealing the ingenious engineering solutions the builders employed to achieve such enduring stability. On a more intimate scale, science turns to the smallest fragments. Isotopic analysis of human remains found in associated cemeteries reads the chemical signature locked inside tooth enamel and bone. This analysis acts as a geological passport, indicating that some individuals spent their childhoods hundreds of miles from where they were laid to rest. This provides direct physical evidence for the movement of people, perhaps the master builders or dedicated priests between the twin centers, confirming the theory of a shared mobile elite. Yet these powerful tools come with a profound responsibility. The ability to see through stone and soil without breaking the surface raises urgent ethical questions. Should these hidden chambers be physically opened, risking damage to a perfectly preserved environment? Or should they be left as a legacy for future generations with even better technology? The debate between gaining new knowledge and preserving the sanctity of the site is a defining challenge of modern archaeology. This technological lens does not just provide answers, it reframes the very questions we ask, pushing us closer than ever to the minds behind the mirrored stones. The very stones that offer clues also ignite fierce debate. Behind the quiet consensus of museum displays, a vibrant intellectual battle rages over the meaning of the twin ruins. The central question is deceptively simple. Did these cultures invent their mirrored architecture independently, or was it the result of direct, purposeful contact? How scholars answer this question fundamentally reshapes the entire narrative of our ancient past. On one side of this divide stand the diffusionists. These researchers argue that the level of precision we see, from astronomical alignments to identical room proportions, is simply too perfect to be a coincidence. They point to the shared artifacts, the evidence of long-distance trade routes, and the geochemical signatures of imported stone as undeniable proof of interaction. For them, the twin structures are the smoking gun of a vast, interconnected prehistoric world, a network where ideas and blueprints traveled as freely as goods. The opposing camp champions the theory of parallel development. They contend that the human mind, when faced with universal challenges, often arrives at similar solutions. The need to build a stable, monumental structure naturally leads to a pyramidal form. The desire to track the seasons for agriculture compels observation of the sun, resulting in solar alignments. They argue that what we are seeing is not cultural contact, but a shared human psychology playing out across different landscapes. This school of thought emphasizes the unique local variations in pottery styles, burial practices, and toolkits found at the sites, suggesting these were still distinct cultures that simply shared a similar architectural language. The debate is further complicated by new discoveries that constantly force reinterpretations. A piece of pottery once thought to be unique to the northern site turns up in a dig at the southern complex, sending diffusionists scrambling for their maps. Then, a new carbon date reveals a gap of 200 years between the constructions, giving the parallel development advocates a powerful new piece of evidence. This is not a static argument. It is a dynamic, living conversation fueled by every shard of pottery and every laser scan. These controversies matter because they are about more than just ancient building techniques. They are about how we understand human innovation and connection. The diffusionist model paints a picture of a collaborative, communicative ancient world. The parallel development model highlights the incredible, innate ingenuity of the human species. Each interpretation carries its own profound implications for how we see ourselves and our shared history. This ongoing scholarly dialogue ensures the mystery remains vibrantly alive, refusing to be locked away in a textbook. It reminds us that history is not a set of carved-in-stone facts, but a constantly evolving story, one that is rewritten with every new discovery we make in the earth. The echoes of ancient chants have been replaced by the hushed murmurs of visitors from around the world. These twin ruins are no longer just archaeological sites. They have become powerful symbols of national pride and cultural heritage, featured on currency and in school textbooks. For the local communities living in their shadow, the ruins are a double-edged sword. They provide vital jobs as tour guides, custodians, and artisans, fueling the local economy and bringing international attention. Yet this very attention carries the risk of irreversible damage. The constant tread of thousands of feet can slowly erode ancient stone floors, while the temptation for a souvenir has led, in some places, to the heartbreaking theft of small carvings. The challenge for conservationists is a delicate balancing act: how to allow people to experience this wonder while ensuring it survives for centuries to come. This has led to innovative solutions, from building viewing platforms that protect fragile areas to using timed ticketing systems that control the flow of visitors. Museums near the sites play a crucial role, housing the most fragile artifacts in climate-controlled cases and using interactive displays to tell the story of the twin builders. The guided tour itself becomes a form of modern storytelling, where the mystery of the mirrored geometry is explained not by priests but by trained interpreters. The cultural impact of the twins extends far beyond their physical locations. They have captured the imagination of novelists who weave tales of lost civilizations and cosmic portals. Filmmakers use their imposing symmetry as backdrops for stories about duality and destiny. Artists are drawn to their perfect forms, replicating their silhouettes in paintings and sculptures. This ongoing fascination shows how these ancient structures continue to answer a deep human need for mystery and connection. They stand as a testament to what humanity can achieve when we work in harmony, a message that resonates as strongly today as it did millennia ago. This enduring legacy forces us to look beyond the stones and into the mirror they hold up to our own society, our own dreams, and our own place in the vast expanse of time. Perhaps the most profound question these twins ask is not how they were built, but why the human mind is drawn to such perfect repetition. This architectural mirroring speaks to a deep-seated philosophical need, a desire to impose a beautiful, predictable order upon a vast and often chaotic world. In creating two identical anchors in the landscape, the builders were not just constructing buildings, they were crafting a statement of stability. They were asserting that despite the unpredictability of nature, of seasons, of life itself, a fundamental and knowable symmetry existed, and they could replicate it. This act challenges our modern celebration of originality. For this ancient culture, the highest value may not have been in creating something new, but in recreating something perfect, a form so sacred that its duplication was an act of devotion in itself. Were they driven by a fear of chaos, using stone to build walls against the entropy of the universe? Or was this a quest for a kind of immortality, a way to ensure their most profound ideas would outlast any single generation or any single place? Historians and philosophers debate whether this was purely utilitarian, a simple and effective model for regional control, or if it was motivated by abstract ideals of cosmic harmony. The very fact that they invested such immense resources points toward a deeper, spiritual imperative. The symmetry of the structures likely mirrored a symmetry they perceived in the cosmos, a balance between light and dark, earth and sky, the individual and the collective. This human tendency to create patterns and connections is universal. We see it in the constellations we name in the random stars and in the stories we tell to make sense of our lives. These ruins are a monumental expression of that same impulse. They remind us that long before globalization, humanity was seeking ways to feel connected across the daunting expanses of the physical world. This philosophical layer enriches the mystery, pulling our focus from the stones themselves to the minds that conceived them. It makes the preservation of these sites not just an archaeological duty, but a vital conversation with our own deepest instincts about order, meaning, and our place in the universe. These silent stone twins face a slow, invisible siege. The very air that surrounds them now carries a new chemistry, accelerating erosion in ways their builders could never have foreseen. Gentle rainfall, once a source of life, now carries a slight acidity that patiently dissolves intricate carvings over decades. More extreme weather events, linked to a changing global climate, bring torrential downpours that undermine ancient foundations and scorching droughts that crack and weaken stone from within. This natural decay is compounded by the pressure of our own fascination. The brush of millions of hands, the vibration from countless footsteps, and even the subtle changes in humidity from our breath contribute to a gradual, cumulative wearing away. For structures defined by their perfect geometry, the loss of a single, precisely angled corner is not just physical damage. It is the erasure of a critical data point in a vast, ancient equation. The identical nature of the twins makes this threat uniquely profound. Damage to one site doesn't just rob us of one monument, it destroys a point of comparison, breaking the mirror and leaving us with a solitary, incomplete reflection of a past we are still striving to understand. This realization has sparked a global race against time, a collaborative mission to shield these wonders from the passage of both nature and humanity. Conservationists are now digital scribes, using laser scanners to capture the exact contours of every wall and carving. This creates a high-resolution, three-dimensional digital twin, a perfect virtual copy that preserves the site's geometry forever, even if the physical stone should someday crumble. This data is invaluable, allowing researchers to study proportions and alignments remotely, and providing a blueprint for any future restoration that might be necessary. On the ground, the approach is deeply nuanced. Tourism is essential for funding and awareness, but it must be carefully managed. Engineers design discrete walkways and viewing platforms that guide visitors along routes that minimize impact, protecting fragile floors and walls. The number of people allowed inside the most sensitive areas at any given time is strictly controlled, a necessary step to preserve the serene atmosphere and the structural integrity of the spaces. Perhaps the most vital strategy is the engagement of local communities. When people who live in the shadow of these ruins become their guardians, preservation becomes a personal mission. Training programs create jobs as site stewards, and educational initiatives instill a sense of pride and ownership in the younger generation, ensuring that the knowledge of why these places matter is passed down. This is not a task for any single nation or discipline. It requires archaeologists, engineers, climate scientists, and local leaders to work in concert, sharing data and strategies across borders. The preservation of one twin informs the care of the other, creating a continuous feedback loop of learning and adaptation. This immense international effort underscores a profound truth that these structures are not the property of a single country, but a shared inheritance for all of humanity. Their survival depends on our collective will to protect them, a testament to the enduring power of their original, unifying message. Even with all we have uncovered, the most compelling questions are the ones that remain. The silent stones have yielded countless clues, yet they hold their deepest secrets close. What was the precise language of instruction that allowed a master builder in the jungle to communicate a perfect angle to an apprentice in the desert? We understand the concept of shared measurement, but the moment-to-moment dialogue of that transmission is lost to time. And are the two structures we know truly alone, or are they simply the first pair we have recognized in a vast, hidden network of mirrored sites waiting to be found? These are the frontiers of modern research, where traditional archaeology is merging with cutting-edge science to read the past in entirely new ways. Geneticists are now analyzing ancient DNA from remains found at both locations, not to study the individuals themselves, but to trace the subtle patterns of migration in their ancestry. If the same distinct genetic signature appears at both sites, it would provide powerful evidence for the movement of people, perhaps the very artisans who carried the blueprints in their minds. Physicists are collaborating with archaeologists to refine dating techniques, using methods like luminescence dating that can determine the last time a grain of sand in a mortar sample was exposed to sunlight. This could pin down the construction dates for each site with a precision of mere decades, finally resolving whether one temple inspired the other or if they rose together as part of a single, coordinated vision. The trigger for their construction is another profound mystery. Was it a specific celestial event, a prophetic dream shared by two rulers, or a response to a great environmental shift that demanded a new cosmic anchor? Researchers are modeling ancient climate data against the construction timelines, searching for a catalyst written not in stone but in the earth itself. This forward-looking pursuit transforms these ruins from static relics into dynamic puzzles, inviting a new generation to join the investigation. It underscores that our understanding of the ancient world is not a finished book, but a living story with new chapters being written by every laser scan and every DNA sequence. This enduring quest for answers mirrors a broader human fascination with duality itself, a pattern we see echoed from the structure of our own cells to the foundational myths of cultures across the globe. This pattern of duality is not confined to human architecture. We see it mirrored across the cosmos itself, in the gravitational dance of twin stars and the fundamental binary codes of computing. Our own planet is defined by the push and pull of day and night, land and sea, life and its eventual passing. These are not mere oppositions, but complementary halves of a whole, a universal principle of balance that the ancient builders may have been consciously echoing in stone. The recurring theme of twins in global mythology offers a powerful cultural parallel. From the foundational stories of Rome, founded by the twin brothers Romulus and Remus, to divine siblings in various traditions who embody creation and destruction, these narratives consistently explore the tension between harmony and conflict, unity and division. The twin ruins could be seen as a monumental physical manifestation of this very idea, representing two halves of a single kingdom, two facets of a unified belief system, or two anchors holding the cosmos in balance. This analogical thinking shifts our perspective. It suggests that the impulse to create in pairs is not an isolated architectural anomaly, but a profound expression of a pattern deeply embedded in both the natural world and the human psyche. The builders were not just solving an engineering problem, they were participating in a universal language of duality, using their immense resources to write their own chapter in this eternal story. By recognizing these connections, we stop seeing the ruins as just two separate buildings and start to perceive them as a single, powerful statement about the nature of existence itself. This broader context enriches the mystery, transforming it from an archaeological puzzle into a timeless reflection on how humanity seeks to find and create order in the universe. Our minds are hardwired to find comfort in a balanced form. This deep psychological pull toward symmetry is a thread that runs from the earliest cave paintings to the sleek lines of our modern smartphones. We instinctively perceive symmetrical faces as healthier, and we find balanced designs more beautiful and trustworthy. This is not a mere cultural preference. It is a fundamental part of our cognitive makeup, a built-in bias for order that helps us navigate the world. For the ancient builders of the twin ruins, this innate drive was likely magnified on a grand cultural scale. Living in a world governed by unpredictable weather, shifting seasons, and unseen forces, the ability to create perfect, mirrored order in stone would have been profoundly reassuring. Erecting two identical structures across a vast and varied landscape was a monumental declaration of control. It was a way of telling the universe and themselves that a fundamental harmony existed and that they possessed the knowledge to replicate it. This replication acted as a powerful psychological anchor. For a traveler or a settler in a new territory, the sight of a familiar temple form, with the same proportions and the same celestial alignments as the one back home, would instantly quell feelings of isolation or disorientation. It was a physical promise of stability, a beacon of the known in the midst of the unknown. The very act of repeating the sacred geometry reinforced a powerful group identity. Everyone, from the high priest to the humble farmer, understood the meaning embedded in those walls. This shared architectural language reduced the anxiety of difference and solidified a sense of belonging to something larger and more enduring than any single individual or community. When we look at these twin ruins today, we are therefore seeing more than an archaeological mystery. We are witnessing the physical manifestation of a profound human need, the desire to create pockets of perfect order to calm our fears of a chaotic world. This understanding bridges thousands of years, connecting their monumental striving to our own everyday attraction to balanced designs, inviting a final reflection on what this entire journey has revealed about our shared human story. These silent monuments are far more than ancient ruins. They are a profound testament to the enduring human spirit, a physical manifestation of our timeless drive to connect, to create, and to impose a beautiful order upon the vast unknown. From the flawless geometry of their blueprints to the deep spiritual beliefs that animated their stones, these twin structures challenge everything we thought we knew about ancient capabilities. They stand as eternal reminders that even across immense divides of geography and time, the desire for unity can be literally carved in stone. Their legacy is not locked in the past. It resonates today in our own search for meaning, in our own efforts to build bridges across our modern world. If this journey through the echoes of these master builders has sparked a new curiosity in you, we would love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Share which mystery resonated most and subscribe to join us as we continue unraveling the world's greatest historical enigmas together, one mystery at a time.